let me see here. Scroll up. There's a pop-up that's covering the entire goddamn
Wow, no
page.
wonder you don't use the rule book in your game. You suck at it. It's a skill issue, but carry on.
Doesn't happen every day where someone falls off a building, right? Oh, okay, yeah, I know it. It's like, what, 2d6 per, 10 feet of fall? Okay, they don't have any spells, but they want to try and use their cloak as a parachute, right? Well, there's not going to be something with aerodynamic flow throughout the entire DMG. What you're going to have to do is you could either say, yeah, you just can't do that because you're a lazy DM who doesn't like fun, or you could, have some fun with it. Figure out a ruling on the fly. You are still going to have to, but according to y'all, that's fudging the rules.
No, you use rules as written where you can. There are some situations the rules can't account for. That's where Rule 0 is supposed to come in.
Yeah.
For the situations that the rules don't cover.
Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, have we got a show for you today? Today, we will be talking about best practices as a DM, specifically to start with, whether or not a dungeon master should ever fudge the rolls. Fudge the rolls means adjusting the dice. Say you roll a dice, it comes up 20, but you tell the players that it was a miss because reasons. We'll get into it, right? We'll get into it. But I brought some great people, all about the game, here to discuss this very important topic. And with that, we're going to start with Harmony Ginger, and then we'll end with me because I'll be participating today. So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to start with Harmony. We're going to go around the room, and then I'll end us off. And then we'll just get into it. Any questions? No? Cool. Welcome, Crafty Matt. Welcome, Keto Burrito. Welcome, Nosebleed Seats Man. Welcome, one and all. Strap in, gang. This is going to be one of the most angry shows we've ever done. Harmony, give us your thoughts. Fudging the dice. Go.
I didn't think I'd be going first. Hi, I'm Harmony, at GingerBlast on Twitter, Harmony_Ginger on YouTube. I think you can do whatever you want at your table. You can fudge dice and make rulings based on vibes or whatever's best for the story if you want to. The ghost of Gary Gygax won't haunt you, and WotC won't send the Pinkertons to your house with a shock baton to force you to follow rules. However, meaningful campaigns are forged upon the foundation of trust between players and DM. If you are fudging without proper warning to players that you may fudge, then you are breaking that trust. If you are disregarding rules without informing your players beforehand which rules you are changing or ignoring, then you are breaking that trust. There are plenty of ways to adjust the difficulty of a campaign that will allow you to be honest with your players about the type of game they are playing. If you ignore rules and die rolls, then you are no longer playing a game, but you are running a group story time where outcomes are predetermined. If this is your preference, then there's nothing wrong with that, but you owe it to your players to inform them so that they do not come to your table thinking that they are going to play a game. Oh, thank you for punctuating that, Kitten.
Thank you very much for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, we have Azon. Go ahead. Is that how you say it? I'm not exactly
It's not.
sure.
Hello, I am Azeron. I disagree that fudging the dice means that you're a bad DM, which I think was stated in the original tweet. I think knowing when to and when to not fudge is an important skill to DMing. I agree that I agree with Harmony Ginger that trust plays into a lot of these decisions. Although I think pulling the curtain too much and letting your players know that you are fudging the dice can lead to a little bit of mistrust. So I try not to pull the curtain too much. I will usually go with what the dice say, but I do reserve the right to intervene when I think that it's, the party's enjoyment of the game is at stake. So I'll make that decision. That's pretty much my spiel.
Well, thank you for being here. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. It will happen again. I'll try not to, though. So, Azeron, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Azeron. Okay, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, we have Johnny. Give us what you got.
Hey, what's up, man? I had the absolute pleasure of speaking to a 50-year DM about this, and it completely changed my mind. And so I'm on Wick's side now, haha. I talked about fudging the dice with him, and he basically said that he wants that randomness encounter. He said several more things, but I just think that that was enough authority for me to completely switch sides. So, hello. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you for being here. Welcome to the correct side of this take. Appreciate you. We'll get into it as we go. Sondsol, what you got?
When I'm the DM, I'm not just the judge, I'm not just the jury, and I'm not just the executioner. I am the god of the game. What I say goes. And I agree with what Ginger said a second ago. Yeah, it's all about trust, but if you aren't able to establish trust with your rulings as the DM, then you are a bad DM. If you have to rely on flipping through 5,000 pages of various rule books in order to find some sort of niche rule for some niche situation, then you're a bad DM. You should be able to roll with the punches, be able to figure stuff out and decide on something that is pretty reasonable to everyone involved, right? So like, let's say there's a situation, doesn't happen every day, where someone falls off a building, right? Oh, okay, yeah, I know. It's like, what, 2d6 per, 10 feet of fall? Okay, yeah, of course. Well, let's say they want to, they don't have any magical items, they don't have any spells, but they want to try and use their cloak as a parachute, right? Well, there's not going to be something with aerodynamic flow throughout the entire DMG. What you're going to have to do is you can either say, yeah, you just can't do that because you're a lazy DM who doesn't like fun, or you could, have some fun with it. Figure out a ruling on the fly. Literally, in the DMG, and I pulled up this quote right before we started this whole thing. Let me see here. Scroll up. There's a pop-up that's covering the entire goddamn
Wow, no
page.
wonder you don't use the rule book in your game. You suck at it. It's a skill issue, but carry on.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. The intro to the DMG says this. The D&D rules help you and the other players have a good time, but the rules aren't in charge. You're the DM, and you are in charge of the game. D&D is not a game of rules. It is a game of rulings, all right? And if you can't accept that, then you're just wanting to play board games. Go play Settlers of Catan. Go play something else. This isn't a board game. This is a tabletop role-playing game.
Well, thank you for being here. I am eager to get into it with you, but we'll pass the baton for now to James. Please, hi.
Ohayo gozaimasu, ni hao, senbei no, annyeonghaseyo, and everybody, welcome. First of all, I wanted to say, yeah, I actually appreciate Ginger's take on what just happened. The fact is, you should be communicating with your players at all times. You should also be managing whatever the game is. However, Wick, I'm so sorry to say this, but you, on Twitter, said, if you fudge die rolls, you are a bad DM. And you can see from my setup here, I've spent too much time on this. Matter of fact, too much time that I'm going to go through every edition that says you are wrong. First edition, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Let's say, you have the right, was conducting the game, page 110, rolling the dice and control the game. You have every right to overrule the dice at any time if there's one particular course of events that you would like to have occur. Now and then, a player will die through no matter what his fault of his own. He or she will have done everything correctly, taken every reasonable precaution, but still the freakish roll of the dice will kill the character. In the long run, you should let things as the players will kill more than one opponent with their freakish rolls at some time later. Yet you do have the right to arbitrate this situation. You can rule that the player, instead of dying, is knocked unconscious, loses a limb, blinded, severely punished. You get the idea. Then 3.5 edition. DM, it calls it cheating, just because it's been an issue that's been brought up as fudging being equated with cheating. Then it goes on this. Chapter 1, running the game, page 18. Do you cheat? The answer, the DM can't really cheat. You're the umpire, and what you say goes. As such is the certainty with your rights and sway of things one way or the other to keep people happy or keep things running smoothly. It's no fun to losing a long-term character who gets run over by a cart. A good rule of thumb is that a character shouldn't die in a trivial way because of some fluke of the dice unless he or she was doing something really stupid at the time. And Wick, last we talked about D&D. I just have to say, I I began my journey with 4th edition as a dungeon master. Your favorite edition. And it's 4th edition that undoes your Twitter tweet. Chapter 1, How to be a DM, page 5, Table Rules, Rolling Dice. Rolling behind the screen lets you fudge if you want to. If 2 critical hits in a row would kill a character, you might want to change the second hit to a normal hit, or even a miss. Don't do it too often, though, and don't let on that you're doing it, or that other players feel that they don't face any real risk, or worse, that you're playing favorites. And it's so prevalent, Wick, that when I went to the 5th edition rulebook, you know what the 5th edition was? It was an exact copy of what the 4th edition was. Your favorite edition. Thank you for having me here.
Well, thanks for being here, and I'm eager to get into it with you as well. But we have one last contestant on whatever the this is. Jebtan, give us your thoughts. Concise, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as this goes, you have so much discretion as a DM. I don't understand why fudging the dice is where it needs to stop. I made up a DC that this person had to roll against in many of these cases. And all of a sudden, they pick something very creative they want to do, a creative way they want to help. They get immersed in the role play to try to beat my DC and get as high of an advantage as they could against my DC. And I want them to be rewarded for that. Maybe the DC is not that important, or maybe it's super important. And what I wanted out of making that DC as high as it was, is I wanted them to work as hard as they could together to get that advantage. And they did exactly what they were supposed to do. And they roll a nat 1. And so I fudge it. And I say, well, there's, something else that goes on in the environment that allows you to leverage and maybe roll again and get advantage. How is that any different than fudging an actual roll against them? It's not, but it's something that's looked at completely differently because I've explained it in the world and I've given it some thought that I've translated to the players. I think sometimes you can do the same thing by fudging a roll without letting the players know, because sometimes the players knowing that the dice roll just got fudged takes the soul out of that moment in the game. Instead of them feeling like they came together and were creative.
J-Mac, thank you for the 20 gift memberships. Okay, anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so instead of them feeling like they came together, they used their creativity, they accomplished this amazing role-play moment, and it worked out, and they beat the big bad, they broke through the safe, they did whatever they needed to do. I have to tell them, I have to be like, well, I fudged the roll because I thought you did a very good job. It just sucks the life out of the room. Maybe I'll tell them later on, but I don't think the idea of being transparent that you're fudging rolls helps at all. I think it would honestly make it worse. And when we're talking specifically about 5e, which it seems like for the most part we are, a lot of other RPG systems, including older D&D systems, exist to be heavily mechanical, where you are a slave to the mechanics, and you need a notepad to write down every little +1, +2 advantage that you get. 5e was made to strip away a lot of the numerical boundaries and to make things as simple as possible, because 5e it's seemingly designed to facilitate the best roleplay experience and to get a lot of the obstacles out of the way. And so if there's an amazing roleplay experience to be had by fudging a dice roll, which I homebrew most of my campaigns, so fudging a dice roll on an encounter I may have made too hard, and they may have been one attack away from winning the fight or being TPK'd, and they missed it by like 2, I might let them have that. I might say the AC is lower than I originally intended it to be because I overbalanced the encounter. I made the mistake, and they still kept fighting to the last man, to the last swing, and that one swing would have missed and they would have all died, or that one swing could have landed and we could have the most rambunctious partying roleplay moment after that because they succeeded. And because I'm stuck up about something, again, I misbalanced and I won't fudge a roll, I'm going to take that from them. I just don't think that's good DMing.
Well, thank you.
But it's exactly
what let me. I know you want to jump on, but I got some responses. I've been addressed, so I'm going to go, and then we're going to pass the ball right to you.
Okay.
So here's the deal with fudging dice. We talk about robbing players of the experience. That's what you are doing when you put your narrative enjoyment or what you want to happen above the results of the game. You are stripping away the agency of the players because their rules, their victory is meaningless, because it didn't matter what they rolled. You were always going to have them succeed in the first place. When you fudge a roll, you were lying to your players. There's a few misunderstandings that people have about the DM's job in a game. Your job is not to ensure your players have fun. That's not the job of the DM. That's their responsibility. Their fun, their job, not yours. Your job is not to tell a story. What Dungeons and Dragons is, what it works best as, is it facilitates emergent storytelling. By that, I mean that the story emerges through play. If you want to have a set piece of events happen, write a play, right? Have them act out the play, follow the script, then everything you want to happen will happen. At the end of the day, regardless of what the DMG says, right? The best experience for Dungeons and Dragons is when you let the dice fall as they may, and you are a good enough DM to adapt around it. Now, your thesis statement right out the gate was, if I f up, sometimes I have to use fudged rolls to fix it. Well, don't f up. That means you're a better DM. If you don't f up, you're just a better DM. Maybe you f up, I don't.
No DM doesn't f up. Some just don't admit that they will.
That's bad. Johnny, go.
And that is exactly what I wanted to address in what your opening statement was, which was that one of the only times that I have heard experienced DMs, and the DM I talked to today, one of the only times that they really find it acceptable is when they f up. And even then, the dude I talked to today was like, yeah, I'll take the first dice roll, but I might fudge the +1s. I might fudge the plus die, basically. But that's only when he up the narrative, which of course happens, you know.
And being a good DM, part of being a good DM is understanding that no one can be a perfect DM. It is even 5e. If you are really, and maybe this might not be the case when you're doing modules. I don't generally do modules. It is an infinitely complex game with an infinitely emerging number of storylines and actions and things your players can do, and a lot of times they're taking you somewhere where you're improvising everything. No one is built to create the perfect encounter every time. And so part of being a good DM is having the humility to say, I'm not going to get it right every time. And if my players come together in a moment where I have way overbalanced, way misbalanced an encounter, and they're like one hit away, I'm willing to fudge that. Now, it does rely on a foundation of not doing that much. You have to have an extraordinarily high standard as to when you're going to fudge the roll, because fudging a roll for that big role play moment, I agree, only matters if you have set the standard that the dice rolls matter so much, but that's also why you never tell the party when you fudge a roll, ever.
I think
unless the campaign is over.
I think that in Wick's little opening, boo-hoo story there, we actually got a glimpse into his psyche. I think what happened to Wick was at some point, I don't know if this was recent. I don't know if this was a long time ago.
Okay, Mr. Girl, are we doing this mind reader empathy shit?
The void is calling.
You, sorry, I can't do a Mr. Girl impression. Yeah, I think that you had someone who was a DM that was basically trying to write a novel with you guys as characters and his NPC as the main character, and you're still ass mad about that because you had a bad DM. Just because someone is a bad DM doesn't mean that all the rest of us should be castigated by your dumb shit tweet telling everyone, oh no, it's a board game, guys. It's not a board game. Go play Settlers of Catan. It's literally in the DMG. If you want to follow the rules so much, it's literally in the intro paragraph to the DMG.
I think
rules. They're not like hard set rules.
Sure.
They're guidelines.
I want to put it to. I think Harmony's trying to get in here.
You don't want to address.
I will address it, but I want to give everyone a chance. I think Harmony can. You have to beat Harmony before you go on to the final boss. Okay, go ahead, Harmony.
Can I get an after?
Yes, Harmony, then Azeron. Thank you.
So much I want to say here. Okay, first of all, I want to address Jebtan here. Jebtan, you were talking about that moment where players just barely beat something because you fudged. But you know what the best moment you will ever have in D&D is? It's when your players go to a place that they aren't ready for, that will kick their ass, and they just make it out alive, right? Maybe someone dies, and then they come back later. and they come back later more prepared and ready to beat this area. And the reason they can do that is because you let them walk into an area they're not ready for, and you don't fudge. You let what happens, and they get out and they come back. And it allows them leeway to prepare to go into areas that they've seen before and that they know the danger. And there is no danger. If you're just going to fudge and let them win, then there's no danger there. In order for them to come out as heroes, they have to face danger. That is very important. And as for the opening paragraph, the paragraph about changing the rules, the Rule 0 thing, Rule 0 was originally, like, the origins of that were in, I believe, AD&D. It might have been 0E. I can't remember exactly. But the idea was this was originally supposed to be a war game, so much, much closer to a board game or a war game than what we currently have. And the original intent of that was to help referees rule on things based on situations that the rules themselves did not cover. Now, yes, that has made its way into later editions and become reworded and turned into a do whatever you want, don't follow the rules. But if you want a long-lasting campaign, if you want your players coming back, if you want to forge a relationship of mutual trust between you and your players, then you don't do that. You roll openly. You don't have to roll openly. I'm not going to die on the hill of rolling openly. Some people want to hide modifiers. I think that's fine. I don't. I roll openly. But I definitely prioritize trust between players and DM. So, I do think that's bad advice.
I'll respond after Azeron.
Go Azeron, and then I'll let Jebtan respond, then we'll open it up, right, and get more.
I do not strip the dangers from my player. I try to make sure that there's always that sense of
if you fudge rolls, you do.
Danger.
Yeah.
No, I disagree. I think also I want to ask you a quick question. If you fudge one roll, is that entire session compromised?
Yes. Your game is
compromised.
Your trust
the whole
is
game, like the whole campaign, like
Yes.
throughout each session?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's kind of an extreme take. I mean,
not even once. It is.
I'm not sure how I can
I
change
agree.
your. I don't know how I can change your mind on that one. I fundamentally I want my players to enjoy the game, but I want them to make sure that their experience is like of good quality. So like if they're having a pretty shit day where they're just rolling nothing but really low rolls.
I'm not their therapist. I'm not there to make sure that they have a good time. I'm there to run a game. I'm there to run a game, and as soon as there's two reasons people will fudge a roll primarily. There's others, but the two main reasons are that to help the players or to hurt them. And in both cases, it's weird. It shouldn't happen. You've broken the trust between the DM and the player. But carry on. Go on, King.
I think we can agree that fudging dice rolls to hurt players is probably like way worse, and that's something that I do not do.
Speak for yourself, all right? I'm not a coward. I've killed a character by faking rolls before. I made an entire final boss with the sole goal of killing this one guy who was cheating his dice the entire campaign. And you know what? I had the goddamn right to do it because I was the DM.
I hope your players see this.
No, he knew about it.
Appreciate the honesty, Sondsol.
I hope they see this.
Well, first of all, I've never killed any of my players, but I've killed the characters, okay?
Oh, so you're a pussy DM too. Jesus
Well,
Christ.
first of all, why are you killing your
players?
players?
This panel?
I think this is indicative of the problems that you're having when you
Castle doctrine. They're
make
in my
up
home, so.
and you think that your players are their characters. They're not, right? Their characters kill them, right? They can die if the dice rolls things. But I'm not there to kill player characters. I'm not there to save player characters. That's not my job. That's their job. It's their job to live or die based on their choices
otherwise.
and the results of the dice. But what you do when you fudge the dice is you remove that or lessen that impact. It makes it into something it's not. But carry on.
I'll jump in to respond to what Harmony was saying to me about this similar things. It's just going to make this dangerless game, and it's going to be too willy-nilly, and it's not going to, encourage creativity or trying again. When I talk about we can fudge rolls, we didn't make the absolutist argument. We didn't make the you should always fudge rolls argument. You guys made the you should never fudge rolls argument. And I'm talking maybe 2 to 3 times in most of my campaigns, I try to have arcs last 6 to 8 weeks. So in an arc, I will generally maybe fudge rolls 2 to 3 times. And it'll usually
That's
be...
a lot!
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really not.
Are you making
'Cause-
that many mistakes? Are you a bad DM?
No, I mean, if you can't admit that you make 2 to 3 mistakes in a 6 to 8 week campaign, you're the bad DM. You have absolutely made mistakes in that process, unless you have followed a
Speak for
module
yourself,
to a T,
loser.
which to me is a mistake. If you're following a module that religiously, I don't think you're giving a very unique gaming experience at your table.
Mhm.
But if you're not following a module to the T and touching nothing and just reading off and doing everything like that, you have made 2 to 3 mistakes throughout 6 to 8 weeks. And sometimes it's not even that big of a mistake. Sometimes it is for the
Jem,
purpose
when
of
you
just
say
benefiting
mistake,
the player.
what are you talking about?
So I homebrew. So I am going to have a lot of non-pre-made encounters. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that they walk into that might be a little too strong, or maybe I added one too many adds to the fight or whatever, because we all know sort of the multiplicative effect of having multiple enemies, especially a lot of them, can affect the difficulty of the game in unexpected ways. If one player who has your AoE damage doesn't do the thing you think they're going to do, that fight could all of a sudden become very, very difficult. Things like that. Or again, if a lucky dice roll does just take out your AoE
Well, then
damage and
that
things like
player
that.
character learns a valuable lesson that he
They
probably
do, and
should have.
and throughout
And when
the
you
entire-
fudge the
Roll a
dice
whole new
rolls,
character for it.
And throughout the entire campaign, they are dying for that. But sometimes when we're nearing the end and we're trying to pull some satisfactory end. I'm not nerfing the game and making it super easy. I am sometimes stepping in and fudging when they are clearly. I'm not blind to the game. I know what's happened. I see them make right decision after right decision. I see them work together. I see them role play. I see tears get shed. Human being tears get shed. Role playing characters working together. And then they're like 2 off of an AC, and that's going to ruin the fight for them, or that's not going to give them like the satisfactory sort of death. The enemy's going to die anyway, but they rolled to kill them in a unique way.
Okay, but remember what you said earlier about giving them an extra opportunity through the role playing? That's
Sure.
literally not fudging dice. And you compared them as if they were the same.
They are.
But that's literally not fudging dice. If you integrate something where they have an extra literal roll, then you're not fudging it.
Sure, but if I'm doing it after the fact, I am doing the same thing as fudging it. I am deciding at that point that I want a different end, or I at least want them to have a chance at a different end, and so I am after the fact.
You
de
don't get
facto
to
adding
choose the
something
ending.
to increase that.
let your players
Yeah, I
and their
know I
dice rolls
don't.
choose the ending. But
That's
yes,
what I'm
you do. You're
saying.
saying, I want a different end. So I fudged either a soft fudge, which is like having something different happen than like things like that, or a hard fudge where you literally change your roll of the dice. You are dictating the result of the game. That's
To
not
an
your
extent,
job,
not the result,
and that
not
makes
the result
your
of the game.
game worse.
It doesn't necessarily make the game worse. It can make the game a lot more enjoyable, which you have already conceded. You have said, it's not my responsibility to make the game enjoyable. So, Wick, I hate to tell you, but a DM who throws his hands up at the beginning of the game and says, just so you guys know, not my job to make this game enjoyable, your games are
What?
going to, on average, be significantly less enjoyable than mine, likely, because I am taking that responsibility onto myself
No,
to make
you're
the game
robbing
enjoyable.
your players of their responsibility. $5 from JMac to say, just give all your players a lucky feat for their PCs then. At least then they will have some agency instead of your divine information.
No, 'cause here's the thing.
Intervention.
You
doing
can
it for
also
$5.
homebrew med kits. You can homebrew med kits so that if a player can touch you, then they can heal you from 0.
That's
Like,
fine.
that's an
But
easy
it doesn't.
little-
I can add 30 million house rules to completely pull away any of the spontaneity and any of the behind the scenes, behind the curtainness of what I'm doing. But if I just fudge a single roll and don't tell anybody, and they just won that fight that they've wanted to win so badly that they did
Players
everything
will
they
find
could to
out-
win and role played hard.
Players will always
They will
find
not-
out that you
they will
fudge.
not always
They will
find-
always
that is
find
not
out.
true.
I don't agree with that.
Absolutely not. They won't.
Yeah,
Okay,
if they roll an 18 to hit and that has worked for everybody else in that fight the entire time, and they rolled an 18 to hit, but they don't realize that like there was an ability on that creature that I might have enacted to make it so they were a little bit tougher, and then they barely make it and they hit them with an 18 again, they're not going to know that I fudged it and pulled the AC back down. They're not
I
going to
promise you that players, right? They're not. Well, I won't say they're not stupid. They're not as stupid as we think, right? They will
I don't
catch
think
on.
they're stupid.
They will catch
I'm
on.
smart though.
See,
Yeah,
here's
they
the
will
thing.
catch
I
on
don't-
if
I'm not
you
smart.
guys
Oh,
you guys keep talking as if we're fudging constantly. I'm saying
You said 2 to
you
3
do it
times every
very
6 to
few
8 weeks.
times.
That's pretty constant.
That's not that constant. When you're
Two-
I feel like
talking,
you could attack Sondsol way more. He
you're
fully
talking
admitted
20 to 30
fudging an
rolls a
entire-
session
I wanna-
minimum.
Hold on.
that I'm
Fudging
rolling.
an entire beast at the end of a game? Fudging an entire boss?
Hold on. Let me.
Is that
let me
really
be clear.
true?
Let me be clear on this. All right. I tailor-made a boss for the final boss of a 3-year campaign to be a actual challenge to these players who started off as literal never played D&D before to the most insane autistic min-maxi virgins you've ever seen in your entire life. The sweat that they would build up.
Yeah,
under
you
their
making
armpits
people in
while
the
they were
Virgins
reading.
tracks. But go ahead, Sonsoy.
Making
I
virgins
didn't-
sweat.
I never mind. I'm not gonna say that. But I made the boss specifically to counter things that they were abusing throughout the entire campaign. So when I say that I made a boss specifically to kill a guy, I gave him heat metal up to level 9 because this guy had hermetically sealed himself into a suit of armor, so he couldn't take it off. And so I just cast heat metal level 9 on his armor, and he just got to sit there and take what, like 10 die 8 damage every turn. Is that cheating?
No,
Just
this
conked him
is.
on the head, broken the concentration. That's the way out of that. But
I want to. Harmony can go.
yeah,
Then
there's
I
a
hold
way
on.
out, but really
Hold
quick,
on.
I wanted to say something really quick. Here's the thing. I'm not sure I fully even agree with Jeb on this because I don't think that it's always a like, okay, I have a hard and fast set AC. It's going to be an AC of 15. Oh, they rolled a 14. I'll give it to them. Like, you can go into playing D&D with literally no rule books whatsoever. Just like have like basic character sheets, and you can play a game of D&D, and you can have it be fun, and you can have the DM. You guys keep on talking about DM trust. Is the only way that you guys trust someone is when you have like a written contract with them? No, it's about like, what are we going to be doing in this game that is going to be both enjoyable for you and enjoyable for me, where it's not like the DM railroading you guys, right? And it's not the DM letting you guys just,
Okay.
through the entire
Let
game.
me read this super chat. Then I'm going to put it to James, who's been trying to get in. Going to give him some room there, and then we're going to go to Harmony. And that's where we're going to go. And then Azeron. Azeron? Yes.
Yes.
We'll go to you too. I want to make sure everyone gets some chances here. $5 from Black Lodge Games. Your players will find out. I have been in this situation as a player, and it ruins the game. You are lying to your friends. Thank you for the $5. James,
Yeah.
you got some thoughts? Give it what you got.
Oh, I got a few thoughts. So I put Johnny Scarlet's miniature with both Harmony and then Root over here.
Yay.
Switch sides right there. Hey, you're defending. There you go. And also, there's a lot of things that I agree with Harmony and Work about. So here's the thing. To steelman your points first, they will find out. Here's the thing. You spend enough time with anybody, you're going to get to know their micro reactions, how long it takes to then look up a new rule, what it looks like versus like looking up a rule versus making it up. You take more time. Your tones sound different. Everything that you do, just there's things that you can't keep track of. They will, because you're trying to concentrate on making something up, but they're noticing what you're doing, and that's on the record sheet in their mind, in the back of their head. So that's one thing. Unfortunately, Wick, not to just always rule book you, because I'll go to something that I want to go to, which is the abstraction, because this was brought up before. 4th Ed, Chapter 1, How to Be a DM, page 4. The DM's goal is to make success taste the sweetest by presenting challenges that are just hard enough that the other players have to work to overcome them, but not so hard that they leave all the characters dead. At the table, having fun is the most important goal. More important than the character's success in an adventure. Now, some of that goes to what you were saying, like if somebody's fudging rolls and then always giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? To succeed, oh, you killed the dragon. That can be it feels like you have no agency in that case. But I guess what I'd like to take it to...
Hold on, I just disagree, right? Like right off the bat. Let me get to these super chats, and then I'll just disagree with you. $20
Okay.
from JMac to say at the end of the day, if a GM wants to fudge rolls, and that's their prerogative, as much as I disagree. However, it does feel kind of weird not to inform your players that you fudge. If your players don't care, then have at it. Fair enough, JMac, but it's still a worse game, objectively. $5 from Fire Ajikon to say Wick has never created a monster mid-session before, and it shows, little do you know, I've just done it enough that I'm good enough at it that I don't have to fudge things. I don't make mistakes.
Wait, hold
not
on,
those.
Wick, I have a question.
Rudubs,
I have a question
aka
on that.
Mr. Flamboy, $5. You won't get him. You won't get him in the way of my money. Those that would fudge their friends behind their backs are also capable of stealing from friends. Do not play with them or at their tables. Thank you for the $5. But to address.
Damn.
To address.
If you've made a monster mid-session, how is that not the literal definition of fudging the rules?
What do you mean? Because say I have prepared an encounter in the swamp, right? Like that's the setting. They decide that they want to leave the swamp and do something I had not prepared for, right? I think again, that's not fudging the rules or fudging the dice to prepare mid-session something based on what the players have done on their choices and actions in order to give them a more realistic, it'd be weird to face a swamp monster. I know these are simplistic examples.
Guys, we can just stop the entire stream right now. He actually agrees with me.
No, I
Holy
don't,
shit.
you weirdo.
Oh my God. He just, you literally just made the exact argument that all of us on this side are making.
No, you made the argument that you should build a monster around killing a specific player. He is talking about.
You should do that.
Hold on.
I did do that, and I'm proud of
I stand by that. That has nothing to do with fudging.
Exactly, that's also true, Jebtan. But Wick is saying that he is role-playing mid-session as the DM. He is doing the role-playing part of a DM, and you're disagreeing and saying it's like what you did.
It's not,
maybe,
but
maybe,
hold on.
maybe
Hey!
One quick thing.
You guys,
here for just a second.
One
of the
quick
things that I'd
thing.
like to.
James, Harmony, then Sondsol. Go ahead.
All right. So this is the part that I wanted to get to before you said that you disagreed with. So there is this idea of the abstraction of the game or the concept, right? You don't need a die roll, essentially, to then have like a kind of objective mechanic, right? There are things that are implicit about the world and explicit, right? We kind of agree to them, and maybe they're just hinted at within the world. Your example of creating a monster all of a sudden outside the world, you hadn't planned that, but there's this concept. Have you ever heard of quantum ogre?
I have not.
Okay. So it's this idea that no matter what you have a series of events.
The illusion of choice kind of deal. No matter what, they're going to run into the ogre. Like, no matter what choice they make.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's bullshit, too. That makes a bad game. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. If you think of that, but that's wait. But that's kind of what I'm getting to with your point. That goes with your point, right? Like, because if you have that there and you don't have the setup stats or whatever, essentially what you're trying to then do is put that there, right? It doesn't exist because you literally didn't think of it in that point. So now it's there, right?
I'm not picking up what you're putting down. Maybe try it again.
I guess basically the idea of a quantum ogre insofar as that you as a GM or DM, whatever, you have the ability to then put something as an obstacle in front of your players, right? Now, whether you have, within the meta of the game, actually prepared that or not, it may not exist. But if they're going through something and then you immediately create it, that's the question. Can it really be called either cheating or fudging in that case? Does it really go beyond the bounds of what you do as like
me creating a monster mid-session because of the players' choices? I didn't think there was going to be an encounter at this point, but they've made choices, which it makes sense that there would be a counter at this point, is fundamentally different than rolling a dice based on a combat action or a skill check and then lying, and that's what you're doing, lying about the results of those dice to your players in order to get a better result. These are not the same.
Well, but there's fundamental parts of it too. So like, here's the thing: you don't know anything about this. Like, you're gonna have that monster, right? Mid monster, whatever. It's gonna be there. You don't know all the stats, right? So you have to then go along and then say, okay, there's going to be a stat that I either make up or then tweak one way or the other. So because of that, I guess that's the question then. Is that really so much different in terms of the practical application, what you're doing with your players? Should it then be that there is a monster there or not? I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that there's things that you're adjusting for in one case or the other.
It's about using the... Okay, so I understand what you're trying to get at, I think, but these are not analogous, in my opinion. If my story has a monster hunting the players, then I design that monster ahead of time. I also design monsters ahead of time that I think it is likely that they'll encounter or might encounter if they're going into a dragon's lair. I have the stats for the dragon ready, obviously. However, what I do not do is make it so that no matter what they choose or what choices they make, they will fight that dragon or they will fight the monster that's hunting them. This will be a result of both the player's choices as well as the dice rolls and their results. And when you fudge the dice rolls and their results in order to get what you think as a DM is a more interesting outcome, you are making the game as less than. But I want to make sure that we get some more people in here. I know that we're going to give you some more last thing, and then we're going to go to Harmony, and we're going to Sonsoy.
Excellent. It might be pedantic in this, and maybe it's just because I focus on language a bit, but I think the trick of it right there is within what you just said. The will. They will encounter it. Somewhere within will is a percentile, right? A likelihood. But you don't know that one way or the other. So here's the difference. Like if you say, oh yes, they will encounter this because I planned this. But versus, well, they might encounter this because it's likely, but I haven't planned it, so we'll see, like whatever. There is a degree of these things, but at the same time, you're still essentially dialing up the knob on likelihood, probability. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay.
Harmony.
Hi. Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, random tables exist for a reason. There is a whole section in Appendix C of the AD&D DMG with a ton of random tables. There are random tables in lots of books. There are whole books dedicated to random tables. And if your players don't go to the swamp to face the dragon, there are so many nice random encounters you can roll. And random encounters do not have to be like you fight 1d4 wolves. Like there are so many cool things you can do with 1d4 wolves that don't involve just fighting 1d4 wolves. So there is lots of interesting content that can come out of random encounters. You have other options. Second of all, there are things you can do to make your games easier that involve empowering your players and not robbing them of agency by fudging your dice. So for example, you can say whenever they level up that they get the max amount on their hit dice. So therefore, they will have more HP than otherwise. That gives them a little bit more leeway to get away if an encounter is overtuned. You can do things like give everyone the lucky feat, like JMax suggested. You can do more or less death saves if needed. There are things you can do to be transparent with players and still allow them a little more leeway, a little more ability to get away. I just contend that you need to be honest about what you're doing. If you want to run an easier game, tell them, because I would be pissed off, honestly, if I came to somebody's game and I thought it was going to be an actual game. I roll up a character, I'm ready to play. And then it turns out the DM's predetermined outcomes are always what happens. I mean,
but nobody's arguing for that.
Yeah, literally, that's arguing a ghost. No one here has said that.
Fudging dice is enforcing predetermined outcomes. If you know what the dice are going to say before you roll them, why roll dice?
I don't. I'm not saying
judge.
like before. Yeah, I'm not saying before the game I'm deciding they're going to win this fight no matter what. I will fudge whatever roll I need to. It is in the game. I'm seeing what is happening in that moment. It is literally definitionally not a prejudgment. It is in them. I'm only ever choosing to do this based on very specific circumstances.
Based on vibes.
It seems like they call for it. The entire D&D is based on vibes. You saying, well, there ought to be an encounter here, so I need to make a monster to make an encounter here based on their decisions. That is vibes. That is a vibe. It is just a different vibe. Everything we're talking about is vibes. And I want to talk about the hubris you guys are demonstrating, and hubris that Wick is demonstrating, and mathematical weirdness that Harmony is demonstrating. Wick, you said your perfect party in a chat we had. You said your perfect party size is 6 people. I promise you, you are not randomly coming up with encounters mid-session that are perfectly balanced for 6 people. That is impossible. They are either too easy or they are too hard. More often than not. You are not this magical wizard who
what is this? Hold on, what is this level scaling that you're talking about where I have to make a perfectly balanced encounter? Perfectly balanced encounters are shit.
That's what I'm saying. And so sometimes when you are exercising those bounds, you give yourself a way to sort of off-gas that pressure in a moment where they've done everything right.
Players have all the tools they need to off-gas that pressure.
Okay, 10 seconds. Harmony, you said I should just give him the lucky feat. I should give him max hit die every time. What you are saying is stuff. No, it doesn't. It makes it way easier. You are throwing at us like we are trying to make this easy, nerfed baby mode campaign. Giving someone the lucky feat increases their odds of success in every encounter so much more than fudging one roll because I noticed it was one off an AC and they had worked so hard to get it. What you are asking me to do is nerfing the game, making it baby mode, and making it suck. What I am doing is not even giving them agency. I don't need to give my players agency in my games. They have it. I'm rewarding them for utilizing their agency in the perfect way and being so close and being like, you know what? They deserve this outcome because
we gotta let Harmony respond to that. Go ahead.
I am asking you to be honest with your players about it. You can give them extra tools to use if you think your encounters might be too difficult. Now, I would argue that the very definition of hubris would be thinking that you as the DM know enough to know when to fudge the die rolls. Why even roll if you're going to fudge? No, just go with what the dice say. I promise your story will be better. Your game will be better. If things happen, if you let randomness happen, let your players react to true randomness, you will get better results out of that over time, even if in that very moment it feels wrong. If you roll a crit against a player that's going to kill them, let it kill them. Let them die. They will. We do let
randomness happen in our games. It is just sometimes it will step in. It is the same thing as just deciding to give everyone the lucky feat because you've made too many mistakes for your liking, or just giving them max hit die all the time. I am just not allowing my mistake in that moment to compromise the rest of my game by giving them the lucky feat, because we're all DMs here. The lucky feat sucks.
Then don't
giving them max hit die all the time fucking sucks. Because guess what they can never
I think the max hit dice is fine. All right.
Max hit dice is fine. It still sucks though. Here's my thing. My thing with this is there's this weird bit behind the argument, slippery slope argument going on between Wick and Harmony that we're just going to come to this nerfed Teletubbies Saturday cartoon DM game eventually because of it. No, what you are doing is giving mechanics that can be abused. What I am doing is saying the only possible way to abuse my discretion in fudging dice rolls is to role play as hard as you can, have as much fun as you possibly can, and work as a team as well as you possibly can. And if they do that to abuse my discretion in fudging rolls, then they will have the best game of their lives.
At that point, they're just playing the DM. $2 from Black Lodge Games, and I want Harmony to respond. I want to get more people in here.
Wick?
Black Lodge Games says, "Don't rob your players of character death or defeat."
No one here is arguing that.
This right here. Don't let people just not die. I'm sorry, Azeron, you haven't gotten in.
Agreed.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Arguments.
Yeah, nobody made the argument that we should, but.
Yeah, you keep saying we're not making these arguments, but everything you're arguing for will lead to that.
That it doesn't. What you're arguing leads to that. Putting in permanent mechanics to nerf and baby mode your game because you've realized that you aren't as good of a DM as you thought you were, and you can't just be perfect all the time. So you're giving them the lucky feat and max hit dice. That's making the game easy and saving them from death and danger.
What I'm doing
$5 is
$5 from R-Dubs, aka Mr. Flamboyant, to say I am going to fudge rolls, then say that using tools is the same as cheating. Some bad DM YouTube circa 2024. And $5 from Crafty Matt to say only ask for rolls when the consequence of failure is meaningful. Combat is always meaningful, and defeat should be a consequence even if you miss by one. Thank you for the $5.
I agree.
I want to make sure that other people get in here, so I want to make sure that we get Johnny in, and I want to make sure we get Azeron in. So that's the order we're going to go in. And then we're going to get to you,
Wick,
Sondsol.
you know the last two times you listed off a list of names.
I know, but I enjoy skipping you. So we're
I feel like you as a DM are putting your thumb on the scale right now.
Not by fudging rolls. I've not rolled a single dice. Go ahead.
Rolled a low initiative.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, no, don't let players expect that they will always have their character. That's the whole point of having extra character sheets.
We agree.
And if you want to play a game like that, if you want to LARP, for instance, that's totally cool. If you just want to LARP and you want to have something where you're always going to be the same character, that's fine. But I would say that the best DMs always say, don't. In fact, actively, I think a warning is better. Don't get attached to your character. Just the verbal warning.
Okay, I'm getting the 3-5 quick feet right now. All right, I'm jumping up in the initiative. If you guys are going to sit there and argue against ghosts, which none of the people on this side of the argument are making at all, then I'm going to do the same thing to you guys. I feel like playing D&D with you guys must be just like 5 hours of the DM flipping through 8,000 pages trying to find the specific table that they need so that they can roll 2d10 to find 1% chance of finding 4 wolves out in the forest so that you guys can waste 2 hours trying to figure out if this is the correct DC level. And
Nah, dude, the math is not that hard, especially in 5e. The math is not that hard.
No, I'm not saying that the math is hard. I'm saying that you're wasting time and rule lawyering in a place where you don't need to when you could make the game actually
rule lawyer. We're reading the manual.
Rule lawyer, you don't have to flip through
the
shit.
The manual says that there are guidelines that you shouldn't
If you
follow.
don't hide your die, and you just let things happen as they happen, that is so much simpler than just
and that's like what
things.
I do 99% of the time, but it's not like I'm sitting there
fantastic.
like making noises behind the DM screen
or
some shit like that,
die,
and then
always.
saying, "Oh, well, you hit," or whatever the. It's
Always
not like we're just
$2 from R-Dubs to say hashtag book control little baby DM. Thank you for the $2. But I want to make sure Azeron gets a chance to get in, and I want to make sure that Harmony and James also get in. So that's the order we're gonna go in.
Okay,
Azeron.
Yeah. So much to respond to. I mean, we all agree that, like, as a DM, we have a wide set of tools that we could draw upon in order to adjust the difficulty or make sure that the players are having a good experience or just arbitrate what happens during the game. My view is that fudging is that one more lever that I have access to. I don't use it often. The times that I do use it are when my players are not having a good time. When they are rolling very low,
I'm sorry. Brittany Simon, thank you for the raid. Thank you, gang. We're nerding it up. And $20 from Lawson Harrison to say nerds. Thank you for the $20. Tell us more why you're a bad DM, Azeron. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I'm a bad DM because I let my players take not the lucky feat sometimes, but I'll give them advantage. Sometimes they'll roll very poorly on both rolls, and I'll just make a mental note of that. So the next time some other check happens where I need them to make an 18, and they come up with a 16, and then I say, do you have anything else that you can add to that? And then they go, oh, I forgot my +1, it's a 17. But if they've been rolling shitty all night, I'm gonna say, okay, well that's good, just good enough. Good job, you remember that +1. That's oh man. His face is turning inside out.
That's what I was trying to get to with the abstraction. Is the whole idea that is like, because Wick, I'm. It's not just, or maybe it is. Is it literally just a die roll that you don't like getting fudged, or is it the concept?
That is
of
the main thing. That is the primary thing. I think it is less bad to change difficulty and DCs and things like that, but not very less bad. The least bad of what I call fudging or a soft fudge would be like forgetting the NPC has an ability that they should be using, like a dragon breath attack, right? When you purposely don't use it to spare a character. That's soft fudging. It's still not good. You still should do it, but it's far less bad.
It's mathematically worse. It's mathematically worse.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get with the abstraction before. Pardon me about that.
Before
oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Ash.
I just want to say that I think a lot of people were saying that, like, you're a bad DM if you do this X, Y, and Z. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's actually pretty hard for a DM to be bad unless you're being like obtusely antagonistic towards the players. I think whenever you forget a rule, it's an opportunity to do something creative that is not in the rule book, and I don't need the rule book to tell me that I can be creative. I can just do it. So that's all.
Also, if you play D&D long enough, you kind of get a feel for like what is like the general area of what some sort of role should be, instead of having to find every single like minute rule all over the book. Like you can kind of just like guess, like this seems like a reasonable amount of damage for what is happening here, right?
Yeah.
Rock slide.
Harmony, then James.
But that's fudging the rules. There's definitely rules for falling damage, or like how much something weighs and how far it falls to how much damage it does to you. There's definitely
all
rules
of those
for that.
are mathematically more significant than giving someone like a 1 to 2% bump in their chance of success in a given situation.
Harmony.
And you're recommending all of those before it.
Harmony, then James. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when it comes to things like fall damage, that kind of comes down to literacy. You should read the rules before you DM, and if you read the rule book, you will know where to look for things. Sondsol's comment that it takes forever and that our games are like 8 hours of looking for rules. That kind of comes with time, and it also comes with reading the rule book and knowing exactly where to look. It's actually quite quick. And you should know, by the way, it is 1d6 per 10 feet fallen, not 2d6. But it's
Slam soul.
quite simple.
Fuck 'em.
I'm just saying that's rules as written, and it's actually quite easy once you get used to the rule books to look this stuff up. And yeah, there are things that aren't covered in the rule books, and well, you try and make rulings that make sense then, but it's important to look things up when they happen, because if you don't, and then you find out later you were wrong, then you have people wanting to retcon, and then it's like, well, you end up in
If
a
you have people
weird
wanting to retcon, you're
situation.
being a bad DM.
I mean, it's just easier to look it up when you need it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, you know the rule now, and you can go forward.
Yeah.
And nobody's
Listen,
What if
gonna
the
be
players?
trying to
Let me
retcon.
ask you this question: what if you follow the rules as written, and the players still are like, "Yo, this is f***ing bullshit. Like, this is like such a niche situation. Like, is this like what we have to do? Can we like go back like 2
Yes.
seconds?" Oh, cool. Then in my games, the way I run my games, it's the exact same, except for I don't have to look at the DMG for every single thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's if you read it once, you don't need to look back at it for everything. A lot of times you can just kind of remember the rules, or at least remember where they are.
Yeah, or you can write them down, or you can have notes before encounters, and you can say, okay, there's a chance of fall
Right.
damage. Let me write down the fall damage.
Exactly.
Like,
Now,
you can
listen,
do
and
a lot
Right.
of stuff.
I get it. I'm a rules
I mean,
lawyer.
yeah,
like
you could write down every single rule in the entire DMG and every expanded rule book there is, and you could have sticky notes all over the place, color coded and organized, or you could just be like, you know what, this is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, or you can
No,
just
so
make shit up.
here's-
I'll let you go,
Oh,
Jebtan.
my
Give me a
lord.
second. $2 from Art. You will not get in the way of my money. $2 from R-Dubs to say, sounds like you're all playing the wrong edition. Thank you for the $2. $5 from
Well, I want to hear what edition that person likes. Okay?
I'm not sure.
Probably
man
3.5
of-
V
man of
fucking
culture.
70 rolls.
$5 from Alchemic Raker to say just one fudge means you've let the players endure every other bad roll in the non-game, and the players know it. One fudge makes the whole game worse. Based in $5. Thank you for $5. And $5 from Crafty Matt.
Why
This
you don't
panel
tell
only
them.
has 2 real DMs, Harmony and Wick. The rest are gross nerds who have never read the manual and are justifying their illiteracy through fudging.
That's hilarious.
No,
Cruel,
so
but
I'll-
$5. Thank
I
you.
have quotes here. I have
Yeah,
two
no,
different
so
damn
one,
things.
yeah,
I
literally
just think it's
one-
really funny how these want to follow every single rule in the entire
You donate
goddamn
another
book,
$2
except for the
for
one
the
that's in the
first one.
first paragraph in the
Yes.
intro that
Wow.
says that these are guidelines, not
Nerds
rules.
are very mad today.
Yeah, so
Nerds are
anyway,
very
here's
mad.
the thing. Is
You're the
I'm
one
a
that
rules
made the
lawyer.
tweet, Wick.
I'm a rules lawyer as a player. I'm a rules lawyer as a DM. I love looking at the rules. I do think it enhances creativity when you give yourself those strict limitations. It's great and it's awesome. And what someone who has really been this big of a nerd about D&D would know, and I know you guys have read it because you've refused to argue against my point that I've made 3 times. Every single remedy to fudging you have brought up mathematically alters the game at your behest far more than fudging a roll based on a 1
First
to
of
2
all,
point
my
miss.
remedy is simply don't do it. Don't do
Sure.
it. Do not indulge.
But you
not
will
even
make
once.
up a whole. You'll make up
Against
a whole.
it.
No,
You're just
that's not
saying it.
true. No, hold on. Your remedy was completely forget an entire mechanic of a monster that you put in the game because you
No,
think
that
it might
I
have
said
been too
that's
hard.
bad to do and you
said
shouldn't
it-
do it, but it's fundamentally
No.
different than rolling the
How do you
dice.
You
feel
said
about
it's
the med
better.
kits? Hold
You
on,
said
I
it's
want to know how
better than
Jeb feels.
fudging. You said
because- hold
fudging
on.
is worse.
You said that something
The
that
med
we
kit is
agreed
worse,
on,
too.
right? You said something we agreed on, which is that, God damn it, what did we agree on? Which is that mistakes, big mistakes, okay? And I'm thinking bigger
No,
mistakes
I
than
didn't say
3 times a
big.
campaign. I'm thinking
I didn't
big
say big
mistakes,
mistakes,
but we're
but-
thinking mistakes where you genuinely misplanned this whole movie, all right? But also med kits. So how the fuck do you feel about med kits?
Medkits
Do you
are dumb.
think that
They
that's-
mathematically alter the game even more. I have house rules, don't get me wrong. Like, I like house rules. I do +2 for flanking, things like that. Like, those kinds of house rules that I like. They're meant to mitigate the mathematical impact of and mistakes and bullshit. Whereas you guys are
Mhm.
saying, I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to give you the luck feat, or I'm going to give you the max hit die, or all these things that give you way more of a mathematical advantage than me never telling the players and rules lawyering the out of them the entire campaign, making sure they know that I'm not the rule book. The rule book is the rule book in a general sense. And then without them knowing, I'm consulting the rule book, and then I'm saying, yep, yeah, you hit.
Do you not
I
think
don't
that you
think
can
that
be
I
a
wanted to touch
fair
it.
like judge in a game without having the rules explicitly laid out for you, like for every single situation?
No, yeah, I'm not taking the absolutist thing. They're
No,
saying that
I'm
you're a bad
asking
DM if you
them.
don't. But okay.
So
What did you say?
The question is, do you not think that you can be a fair judge in a situation without the book right in front of you?
I'm gonna
So I
let I'm
think
gonna
it's
answer. I'm gonna let
Because the
Harmony
game's not
just real quick.
balanced.
Just real quick. I put moderator hat on. I'm gonna let Harmony answer. I'm gonna answer, but then James is trying to get in, so that's the order we're gonna go in. So Harmony answer.
So
I'll answer. Then
if the
we'll touch
players come to your table expecting to play D&D and you give them some sort of folk variant that is not D&D, then you are subverting player expectations. Some players are okay with that, some players are not. But you should follow the rules to the best of your ability. And when it comes to the solutions that I outlined, that you said was easy baby mode and worse than fudging, those solutions are actually from the DMG, which
So is
assume you know,
mine.
'cause I assume you've read it.
The first paragraph
rule of
that says that
DMG
they're
is saying what
guidelines.
I'm
Okay.
saying.
So I've read the DMG further than the first paragraph, and I
Oh, guess what? So have
prefer-
I.
Yes, we
Let,
have all
okay,
read
okay.
it,
Let
but-
her finish. Let her finish, and then you can respond.
and
Go ahead.
I prefer to use solutions that empower the players and put it in their hands rather than the GM's hands. So I mean, if you don't want to do that, that's great. I don't use that. I don't use those either. I personally think my players are adult enough to handle bad rolls when they happen. I don't want to put on baby gloves. I never do. I roll openly, like I said. But the solutions I outlined are in the DMG. And yeah, I've already said, I explicitly disagree with the rule 0 in the DMG. I think you should follow the rules.
Okay.
I think that makes for a better game. If people get the experience that they are expecting, the game is better.
So
I mean, I think they can expect it as long as you let them know ahead of time. Like, I'm a DM, and
Sure,
I'm
I
going to
agree with
reward
you.
for role playing.
but as
generally.
you said,
Same
you
as
don't plan to
changing
fudge,
flanking.
and so that is you not letting them know ahead of time and then
No,
changing it up.
I'm letting them know. I say from the outset, you will be rewarded in this game for role playing. The gods in my world love when you get into your character at the table. So I'll give them inspiration. I'll do all these other things that mathematically way more impact the game, based on just my willy-nilly subjectivity that you guys would never have a problem with because
But
they're
the,
specifically
even
wrote down
having
in the rulebook.
Stop. Even having inspiration is still mathematical in nature. Your solution of fudging the rules
Yes.
is not mathematical. It is a certainty.
That's
It is
not
a
true. It's
certainty.
not.
There is no
I'm
chance.
literally no, Wick. You've
not
done this
understanding
7
what he's
times.
saying.
You have told me what my argument is, and you're wrong. I am telling you, I'm only doing it if very specific conditions are met, and they're super close. I'm not saying if you roll a 5, I'm gonna still say you hit. I'm saying they worked together. They did something creative. This is a big moment for them. They did everything they could to make it happen, and they're off by 2.
They
I
can
might give it
still
to 'em.
fail. Let them fail.
I do let them fail
You
most of the
don't!
time, and then sometimes I don't. I let them fail all the time,
Okay.
99% of the
Wait.
time. But then
Hey,
sometimes they
really
don't.
quick. I have to hear. Please, can you tell us what our argument is?
Yes, your
Because you have
argument.
not responded to it literally once.
Me?
Any of you.
More so
Especially
Wick, but
Wick.
you a little bit as well.
He has snaky eyes.
Yeah.
Naked
Okay,
eye.
okay.
Go
Oh.
ahead, Harmony.
Okay.
Quite small.
Your argument is
Yeah,
that you
small.
believe that you can alter fate. You want to, as the DM, your argument, your opening statement was that you were God. You can alter the fate of the dice. And like that is what you want to do. Now, I know you only do it occasionally. I know that 99% of the time you let the rules go through. But that 1% of the time when the players
Doesn't sound like
almost
Sondsol does
hit-
that, but
I don't know.
Hey,
I don't know what Sondsol
listen,
does,
I'm
not
a
hit.
pretty fair DM, all right? I'm not
Yeah,
fudging
you're
rules left
fair.
and right.
but it sounds like you are
I
a little more
assumed that you
narrative in
don't.
your DMing. Which
Well,
I think
hold
can
on.
be really
Let
cool.
Harmony finish her
don't know.
answer.
I'm not narrative.
I don't think that either of you are sitting there rolling dice and being like, I want that to be a 20. I want that to be a 3. I don't think you're doing that. I think you're doing it 1% of the time. And I think that ruins the whole game.
Sure, I have a question then to test consistency here.
But we do have to get more people
know-
in. I know James
Sure,
wants
sure.
in. He's
Well,
trying.
it's a very quick question.
Very
Wick, do you believe in criticals for skill checks? Do you believe a nat 20 is always a success in a skill check?
In the D&D system, most of
No.
them, yes.
Do you?
Not in
You
all
think-
systems. Subsystems doesn't make sense, but
Sure,
in the
in D&D 5e
context,
though, in a skill check,
20,
nat 20s
a
are always
nat
a win.
20 should, in a skill check, always succeed. What that success is and looks like will depend on the context.
I disagree.
Someone's breaking
See,
the rules.
and that- okay,
Someone's
so that's-
fudging.
Yeah, so that's my thing is, Wick, you're not as
Trying to
consistent
get
on the rules
deep
as
on the rules.
you're not as consistent on the rules as
Again,
written.
I'm not
and
running a DM
Harm-
a game right now. If the
And
rules say
also,
differently,
you're
I will
Harmony
adjust for
panel.
my
But hold
different.
on, Harmony.
Yeah.
That you are not standing by your thing where they need to have the ultimate freedom to succeed or fail because you're literally having them roll for things they cannot succeed in because even a nat 20 would
That's
not
not
allow them to
true.
succeed.
That's not true. No, because if they roll a nat 20 and they get the highest possible result and they still fail, it is still worth rolling because somebody else might have something that comes in. Maybe a bardic inspiration, maybe a bless, something else. A lot of those actually don't work in those scenarios, but there are
I know.
abilities that can allow them to succeed. Even if they fail the original roll. So yes, you should have them roll.
Then you
If the
shouldn't
DC
have
is
them
30,
roll.
Yes,
You should have that other thing
If the DC
happen.
is 30, absolutely. If the DC is 30 and they can only hit a 25 with their modifiers, they might have an ability that you as the DM have forgotten about. You should still let them roll just in case that ability comes into play.
$2
So
from
do
Lord
the-
Medius to say I'm a fair DM. I just cheat when I do it. And $2 from Alchemic Raker. Sorry. House rules are not fudging. Dishonest argument. Thank you for the $2, gentlemen.
Thank you,
House
Alchemic
rules
Raker.
can
That's
often
nice.
be worse than
I
fudging by a long
I do
shot,
need to give it.
mathematically.
I do need to give it to James. Go ahead, James.
Oh, you're gonna give it to me. All right, thank you. So to the point actually that the Harmony and Wick have been making, I actually want to steelman this a bit. There's a D&D YouTuber who I follow that has fantastic YouTube videos called Deficient Master, the initial to DM. Get it? And one of the things that they usually put on there, they had a recent video, maybe 2 back or so, that talked about the idea of fudge, and they used the whole thing, a whole skid of fudge, and then a D20, put it on the fudge, and then said, "Hey, it's so good! Oh my goodness, it's so delicious!" But the point that they're making in that case is autonomy, and then it's not just a DM decision, but it's the decision that the players want to know the consequences of their actions, good or bad. Now, I think that's the beauty of it, and I think that's actually a huge part of growth. Like we've talked about previously, the idea of trying to work with rules and then finding how you can then, I think Azeron, maybe you said this, improv as a DM. For example, if, just to give a kind of tangent, if you're working with like a camera and you have a prime lens, there's no zoom on it. It's 1 millimeter stuck and you got to work with what you got. But if you have a zoom lens, you can go in and out. The problem with the zoom lens is that you can't really then have that discipline of one perspective of what you're then adhering to as like a fundamental nature of what this thing is. And similarly, you can also have that kind of advocacy for the rules itself, saying this is the way it is, no other adjustments. I think, though, to be fair, there's a lot of absolutist arguing here. So I think what I disagree is if you do it at any respect, it's bad. And then I really disagree with the "you are a bad GM" or DM part. The reason that I've been doing DM is because of Dungeons and Dragons. And one last part, but then I'll throw it out to people, is that Johnny Scarlett actually made a change to her side being over here. One of the things that she mentioned, or that you mentioned, was this. You have talked to other people with other experience. The reason that I'm going to the DM guide isn't just simply to be rules lawyer, although it's really fun. It's the fact that you have the accumulation of DM experience here in these books being put into this, and also, again, making a product, but you have their perspectives. And there's so many other parts into which the forewords, I think of 2nd edition, says that this is your game, and even though it's supposed to be a reprint of like what Gygax did, what they try and say is you make it up. And it also does depend on what DM edition you're looking into. If you look into the DMG, 1st edition, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, is way different from Basic and then from 5th Ed. That's all I'll say.
Okay, well, thanks for saying that, and we're going to Johnny since she was mentioned, and then we'll get back into the discussion. Go ahead, Johnny.
Cool, yeah. I did change sides with the caveat again that really the only place that has been found for me that really makes sense is either having something where you made a mistake, but even then, if I really like playing with the dice open. And so it's like, if you make a mistake, you really can't fudge the dice. And I do agree that your players will always find out, but I also think that it will probably, unless you're playing with like kids or something, it will probably ruin the trust that they have for you, that you're trying to give them an honest experience. Now,
No, finish, but then I have something to say. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, the idea also that maybe you forget something, that you don't give a boss a +1 or something, or a plus die. at some critical point. I also think that technically doesn't fall into dice fudging because you didn't ever roll the dice, but that's really pedantic. Anyway, I'm gonna let Blake go.
Okay. So here's
trust is a thing, is something about consistency. If you're consistent with the way that you're applying rules, why are you violating literally anyone's trust?
Okay, Wick.
But if you're consistently not following the rules in order to make a better quote unquote experience for the players, I don't trust you to follow the rules of the game.
The experience is better,
and I want to trust the people I play with, both the players and the DM, right, to follow the rules of the game with any house rules or anything like that, any adjustments being litigated beforehand. Let me ask you a question, right? Let me ask Sondsol, Azeron, James, and Jebtan a question here. You're playing a game. You're a player. You go through, you get to the last boss battle, you've done you've made all these changes, you've done all these things, and throughout the game, like, it's all come down to this, and then you succeed, you kill the boss. But then, a week later, 2 weeks later, a year later, you find out that the DM let you win. The DM added that a little extra +1. He thought you had done everything you possibly could. You have a +1. How would you feel? How would you feel if that happened?
I'm fine with that.
I'd feel if they did it in the way I would do it, like in the circumstances I would do it, I would love it. Because I'd be like, how much would that have sucked if if we had worked on this thing where we're going to take 3 of our spells and abilities and dedicate them not to hitting the boss, but to working together and taking this super, tricky, high risk, very cooperative move to make sure this last boss fight ends as awesome as possible. And he says, yeah, you rolled a 14 and his AC was a 16. But, you guys, the way this all worked, I just called it. He was so amazed by what he was looking at. It worked out. I was like, I would say thank you. We spent 30 minutes machinating that in our heads, and you didn't let us lose off of two off on a dice roll.
Straight up. I would never play in a game with that person again. I would never.
It
is robbing. And there are
game
plenty
sounds
of
like it's
it
too much
was
fun
robbing
for you,
me. It robbed me of the natural result of my choices and actions. It robbed me. It stole from me. It's not a reward. To let me win is not a reward. And that's what you did. You let me win like I was a child.
No,
that's what you did, like you would a child.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you
$2 from Lord Mattias.
7-level spells today because I know that you guys are struggling. And
$2.
You know what? Instead of a full rest, I'm just gonna, or instead of a short rest, I'm just gonna let you guys have the effects of a full rest.
Don't do that. Either.
We're probably gonna see
$2 from Lord Mattias.
I don't either.
To say I'm trustworthy. I lie to you consistently. Thank you for the $2. $10 from Froggy Style to say, damn, I was thinking of trying D&D at some point, but these arguments from all sides are a bit depressing. I don't know if I want to try it. If this is how it is, well, I mean, this is kind of.
I'm gonna make your life hell. Get this person on stream right now. I'll run
a
game right now.
Even with your children, you should never fudge. It is more than bad DMing. It is a bad character trait. Stick to other adults of low character. Thank you.
So here's the thing.
I didn't know we were in Sunday school. Jesus Christ.
Wick, here's the issue that I don't think you're getting. It's not about you. It's not about any one person at the table wanting to come and play at my table again. What I am there to do is try to give everybody the best experience possible. D&D is a game we play in real life, largely. We do play online sometimes, but it's a game with a lot of intricacies outside of the table. Sometimes you're at the end of a story arc, and there's a player who that's his last session. He's got a new job. He's going to school. He's not going to be with you any longer. And you're saying I'm a bad DM if I don't allow the whole fight to fail off of them getting literally rolling 1 too low, and he has to go and not be a part of when they come back and do that boss better. No. There are things in the game that are not within the rule book because they're not even happening within the table. Sometimes you account for those things, and a lot of times when I fudge, those are the kinds of things I'm accounting for. I've got everybody here at the table. There's a big moment. Everybody's got their shit that they have abandoned to come to my table that night.
I don't even agree.
It's a very emotional argument, but I do like it.
I do.
You're not his therapist.
It's an emotional game. We're hanging out.
You're not your player's therapist. I want to get other people in here. We're going to pass it to Harmony. We're going to pass it to Azeron. And that's the order we're gonna go in.
Just play Divinity
Harmony.
2 if you want to play with a computer. Is what I'm
Just
saying.
write a book if you want them to
Fucking
follow the
true!
script.
Yes.
You just
play
write a
Baldur's
book
Gate
if
3
you
or
want them to
Divinity
have
2.
the ending
Don't
known
play
in
with
advance.
people if you
But
don't
go to
want people's
Harmony.
influence in the
Wick,
game.
who hurt you? Who hurt
Your
what
arguments
DM
are
fucking
hurting me.
railroad-
Your arguments are
what
causing me
DM
literal
railroaded the fuck
pain.
out of you and made you have such a bad take. All right,
Harmony,
sorry.
Your
go
blood
ahead.
sugar's low. Have some fudge, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I am very sorry, guys. This is wild. I don't even know where to start. Pass it to Azeron. I'm.
We'll give you a
drooling from
moment.
all
Collect your
this.
thoughts. I understand.
Please.
They've stunned you with the bad takes. I get it. Let's go to Azeron, please.
Thanks. So yeah, I don't think we necessarily on either side of this issue. I don't think we necessarily dwell upon the extremes. I don't think, except maybe I guess Wick, because Wick is just super hardcore and based for that. I just think that, like, given whatever the moment is, if I have to look up a bunch of rules and spend a lot of time to do that, I'm going to shortcut that by making something up and verify that later. If somebody's having a not so good day, then I'm gonna be not as harsh on their roles if they're like not having a good time. It's just it depends on like what the situation is, and I'm going to allow myself to be malleable to every case. To like, I mean, I've had players who are more hardcore than other players who want me to like give them like the hardest situations possible, to just throw everything at them. And I have players who who disagree that players should die. I've had those players. I disagree with them. For me, death is always on the table. But it's just kind of being able to adapt to those players, match their energy, if you will, and
Could you
making
imagine
sure that
just real
everything
quick,
is flowing very well.
Could you imagine though, if you found out that your player, your DM, saved your character, but then the next session he lets Johnny's character die because he didn't feel like it then? Could you imagine, right, how that would feel? I
Don't
think
do it
it's
in
just
that
would be a breach of
crazy
trust.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't be just
100%
doing it
right.
because of favoritism. That would be the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
Is the favoritism, not the
lack
fucking
of
stuff.
consistency. The lack
My
of
thing is,
consistency.
you
hang
guys
on.
are arguing from an age where D&D existed because we didn't have other ways to play games like these. We do now. Go play Divinity 2 if you want a computer. Go play Baldur's Gate if you want a computer. The reason I'm sitting here and having everyone over at my house or over in my Discord is because they want a living, breathing game that is as interested as they are in everybody having fun. That is why they have a human running the game with them.
Finish your thought, Azure John, then we're going to go to Harmony again. See if
I can even think of a situation where your hypothetical is okay, Wick. It's possible that player wanted to change up their characters, so we are planning a character death. It's possible that player in particular is more hardcore than everyone else and actually is seeking tougher challenges and doesn't want to be challenged in or doesn't want the kid gloves, so to speak. I think that type of player is just like another archetype or another person that I need to like match myself to. So yep. I would, hit harder against that player and hit softer against other players depending on how they're going to enjoy. Yeah,
okay, $2 from Alchemic Raker to say one fudge equal every roll not fudged is favoritism. Thank you for the $2.
Listen, the rule.
Let's pass it to Harmony, and then we will go and the discussion.
I want to address.
Yeah, go ahead.
The idea that if the DM enforces the rules as written, then it becomes like a computer game. The big thing that D&D or really any RPG, tabletop RPG, has over a video game is total player agency. You can do things that the programming never accounted for, and that's something that's really, really special. And I believe that DMs do exist to enforce rules, and I think that enforcing them across the board is the only fair way to do it.
I think it's so ironic that you say that because the literal like big game that came out recently, Baldur's Gate 3, Baldur's Gate 2, those were literally based off of the entire AD&D playbook. Like
5e, not AD&D.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The older ones were AD&D. The recent one's 5e. But like Yeah, that's the entire point. There are things that are going to happen that the rules do not account for. You, as the DM, are still going to have to make up some rules on the fly. You are still going to have to.
I agree.
But
with
according to y'all, that's fudging the rules.
No, you use rules as written where you can. There are some situations the rules can't account for. That's where Rule 0 is supposed to come in.
Yeah.
For the situations that the rules don't cover.
$10 from JMac to say top right. I'm assuming that's you, Azeron.
No, Jebtan.
Oh, is it Jebtan?
No, it's me. Yeah.
Okay, Jebtan. Well, they might see a different light. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Jebtan, fair enough. Top right. Do they know you fudge? Because if they do, great. If they don't, then why would you keep that from them if everyone is not only fine with it but welcomes it?
Yeah, so the same reason that I don't want to see the ropes pulling around all the superheroes in the Marvel movie. I am aware that it exists and that it's happening. I don't want to see it happen. I don't roll openly. I don't, because I want them to be interacting with a world and with characters and with the stuff around them. I don't want them staring at a bunch of dice all game on both sides of the table. I want the world to feel like the world, not the world to feel like another set of dice. I want them to feel immersed when they're at the table and encouraged to roleplay. The rules as written in D&D, rules as written period in games, are going to benefit those who are going to dedicate themselves to taking advantage of the rules. I want people who are looking to take advantage of the rules to feel comfortable in my game, and I'll create an opportunity for the wizards who want to animate 30 ball bearings and do 47 million damage a turn. I want them to have the space to do that. I want them to be able to have a pixie with polymorph turn people into T-Rex. I want them to be able to do that, but I don't want their existence to take away from the game of my friends who want to play the next barbarian because they want to have a little fun and be silly. And I don't want them having fun, being silly, and role playing to take away from their success in the game. So much so that they're basically inert in combat because they have the min-maxer who's ready to wallop everybody.
What is this?
I want to account for both players at my table.
This is a consistent thing that a few of you have said. Like Azeron said this, you've said this. I'm not sure if Sondsol said this in his various screechings. But basically, you keep mentioning that you want to make sure the players have fun. That's such a nebulous goal, such a nebulous target, because my idea of fun would mean that you never
making that exact
ever
same point.
fudge.
You have made that exact same point,
right? What are you talking
You've
about?
made that.
You've been
that,
I
saying
said
it's not as
specifically
fun.
in my opening statement that it is not the DM's job to ensure that their players are having fun. That's not their job.
It's the rules job.
It's the player's job.
It's the player's job.
Harmony.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
harmony.
what would you do when there is a game mechanic that is game breaking? In 3.5, you could legitimately have an infinite money glitch by buying a ladder, tearing the two side poles apart, and then selling the 10-foot poles for more money. We literally abused that one game, and the DM let us because he was just letting us have fun with it. But we literally, like a 10-foot pole globalist empire so that we could afford a boat to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But like the point is, like the ladder is,
if you
50
find
silver,
a store that has infinite ladders where you can do this, then that's bad design. That's bad design of the world.
Yeah, that's not an
no,
infinite
that's
money
the
glitch. You're
rule
limited.
book, Wick.
Oh
Wait.
It's in
Does
the
every
rule book.
shopkeeper have infinite ladders?
At Larry's
Eventually, they will run out. So you buy it for
Eventually,
5.
we
You
reach a
thing
critical
it.
and we just hired some woodcutters. Okay.
Well, no,
Like,
wait, no, that's not true, because whoever he sells the ladder back to in its individual parts, he can then buy it back from once it's a ladder again. It is infinite. Unless you are purposefully making it so they can't do that because you don't want them to.
What shopkeeper is going to continue to rebuild these ladders and sell it to you for a loss? That would be silly.
All right.
Let's go to Harmony. Let's go to Harmony.
I did have
And then
something
go
to
to
say.
James.
That was an
Yeah.
absolutely wild point that we should fudge because of infinite ladders. I know I'm just paraphrasing. I know that's not what you're saying. But anyway, I am interested in running a campaign that has long-term fun built in. I'm interested in having a living world where players can fail and the fun happens long-term. That might mean that there are a couple encounters that aren't fun because I'm not going to fudge it. But I believe that fudging those encounters will take away from the long-term fun by compromising the integrity of that. And I want my players to know that every time they beat a dragon, they earned that win. I want them to know that every time they fail, they can come back and try it again. Maybe with one less player. Maybe they lose a character doing that. But usually they're able to retreat if they're smart. I let them fail.
Yeah, we let them fail too. But the
Yes.
point is, when like in the instances where I will like fudge a dice roll, I'll be like, yeah, you killed him. Like, it's because they have earned it.
Okay.
Yep.
$5 from J Mac, and then I'll let you finish, Harmony, and then we'll go to James. $5 from J Mac to say that's why we practice supply and demand in our games. Every GM should know advanced economics with a.
It's all comparative advantage.
Thank you for the $5.
What we're saying is,
hey!
We want our players to be able to earn it. We don't want randomness to always be able to steal it from them.
We're going to give it to Harmony, and then we're going to give it to James, and that's the order we're going in. Harmony, finish your point.
Randomness to be able to steal it from them.
Always be able to steal it from them. To always be able to steal it from them. You are making the absolutist argument that randomness should always be able to steal it from them. We're saying we want them to be able to earn it sometimes.
You can still fight against randomness. I mean, there are lots of things you can do to mitigate your chances, and that is up to the players. I have a question for you, though. In your game, what would you think about the players coming with a player screen?
The players
so that they can mitigate their own randomness.
Those are just dice boxes.
Master.
Yeah,
no, they're not the dungeon masters. So no, same reason when there's
in my games, if I were to fudge dice, I would let my players fudge dice. But I'm not, because I don't. And we all roll openly.
That's fine. That's fine. We understand what you would do. We're saying that would be dumb and wrong.
Well,
and not as good.
It would be dumb. But here's the reason why it's dumb. Players have a much higher incentive to lie about their dice rolls than the DM does.
It sounds like you guys do it with quite little incentive.
What do you mean? I very specifically said out of hundreds, maybe even 1,000+ rolls in a story arc of a campaign, I'm maybe doing it 2 or 3 times. How little do you think the incentive has to be for me to do it that few times over that many rolls?
I mean, I've never fudged a die roll.
Okay, so what you're saying isn't that we need little incentive. What you're saying is anything that is less incentive than you would take, which is none, is only a little incentive. Any incentive that is a little more than yours is a ton.
I don't know your games. I haven't seen your players. But if you do it a couple times over the course of the campaign, then I mean, I don't know. I don't want to judge you, man, all right?
Judge them. Judge them.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying, I don't think it's right.
Okay, $5.
But I think if you should let the DM play it, you should let the players fudge.
Okay, $5 from R.
They know what's best for the story too, right?
No, the players.
Life ain't fair.
Do not do that. It really messes up the
group
player
dynamics?
DM group dynamics. Yeah. Okay, $5 from R-Dubs to say, of course, the dice fidgets would be ladder exploiters and ignore timekeeping on broken ladder repair. These fudge DMs do not deserve to close roll. Thank you for the $5.
I'll be back in 1 second.
I'm going to give it to James and let James go. And I see you, Azeron. I see you, Johnny. I know everyone is. I told you it's not going to be a chill discussion. Okay. I know everyone wants to get in, right? And we will make sure everyone gets in. Go ahead, James.
Well, you're a bit happy it's not so chill, too. We will.
Oh, and Songy and Stu, thank you for the 5 gifted Wick TV memberships. Gang, also, let me just take this moment to say that it's your support that lets me have these wonderful discussions. You keep giving me money, I'll keep giving you content, and we're not going to roll any dice because we don't need to. It's a one-to-one exchange. The more money you give me, the better content you'll get. We got some great things coming up, so keep giving me money. Your money.
We don't roll
should
dice.
Be
this is
my
LARPing.
Money, right? Your money should be my money. And you can use the infinite ladder glitch if you want. I don't care how you get the money. Just give it to me. James, Azeron, Johnny, go ahead.
All right. To Harmony's point, there actually just a quick staleman there. I think that does come from the advanced Dungeons and Dragons part. You were talking about the longevity of a campaign. I think that's first edition. I might be wrong, but I remember that. Yeah. I think there is a caveat, and I don't know if that's the rule 0 that you're referring to about like either changeability or whatnot, but that's at least there. So I understand what you're talking about. The longevity of it is important. I agree. I think the disagreement's over that 1% part at all. Here's what I wanted to ask. This actually is a question to, I guess, Wick, but in general, the never fudge die rolls or never mess with the system kind of experience. Anyone watch Canon out of curiosity? Canon podcast? Okay. This is a podcast that does a whole other bunch of TTRPGs. One of them is Pathfinder. Now, they've been doing Pathfinder 1E for a long duration of time. Pathfinder 2A came out, and the rules bumped up the damage and the danger of everything that happens. Now, what they discovered on their second season of their main Pathfinder campaign that's now 2E is that the system that is in place is incredibly damaging. And they have this thing called, damage, where that if you, it's kind of the same thing as hit points. You roll, if you take damage, double your hit points at any point, you're just instantly dead. But the thing is that it's at any point. And the problem is that the difficulty for this is incredibly hard. So what the GM had been saying, Troy LaValle, he had been saying that he's been doing some adjustments here and there. He wasn't specific where, or he said it wasn't with attack rolls or some rolls, but with some rolls, he's been changing it. And I can understand that from his point of view. But I guess this generates a question to the people who say, don't fudge the rules. Okay, here's the question. Question is, do you consider it to be a good game if none of the players have fun, but the rules have been followed?
No, I don't. I think that if none of your players have fun, the game has failed, right? But this is, again,
Well, whose fault is that, Rick?
responsibility? Again, unless we get into the specifics of the context, right? I don't know. Because DMs can absolutely ruin a game with balls following all the rules as written. That can happen, right? Following the rules as written is the bare minimum. Again, you can house roll things, you can make adjustments, but you do that before the first game is played, right? You let everyone know. And if there is a change that everyone has to agree on, right? Now, first of all, switching systems mid-campaign is a bad idea for all those reasons that you mentioned, right?
They finished the campaign, they started a new campaign.
Okay, well, I don't know, but just off the top, that was like a red flag for me. And I understand that you're going to mess up and you're going to make mistakes if the system is brand new to you and you're running it for the first time. I understand that. But again, when you fudge the dice to fix those, it makes it less likely that you'll fix it naturally in the future, right? It's a crutch that will basically weaken your ability. It weakens it, right? It weakens your ability to actively use other techniques in order to mitigate some of the mistakes that you might make. Now, to answer your question, if no one is having fun, right? Like, then you have to find out, right? You have to find out.
Can you repeat that? I just want to write it down.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't repeat it. I'm going off to the next point.
I'm just going to repeat it so that you can tell me if that's what you said or not, because that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire goddamn life.
I don't know. Have you been listening to yourself? You said a lot of bullshit tonight, so you maybe should write that down.
I've been correct on every single thing I've said, all right? Calm down, little bro. Were you saying that by not using the rules as written, you are limiting yourself to not finding new ways to
No, I'm saying
no,
that's not what I said. So you heard it wrong. I'm saying when you fudge the dice rolls in order to fix your mistakes, it's a crutch that leads you to be less likely to actually do the work that you need not to make those mistakes in the future, because you rely on it like, oh, if I make a mistake, I'll just fudge and it'll make it better, make everything fine. It actively hinders your ability to learn the rules better. But to answer the question, right, a lot of things will have to go into it. Something has failed if no one has fun at the table. But if you're the type of person who only has fun when you succeed, maybe, and I would suggest this in all kindness, Dungeons and Dragons is not the game for you. You should probably find something else to do with your time and a hobby where you'll never meet failure or any pushback, because Dungeons and Dragons ain't that.
Oh my gosh, we're back on the no failure
thing
that no one's arguing.
It's a question he asked. But with that, I want to put it to Azeron, and yeah, go ahead.
I just want to respond to Harmony Ginger. You said that, or you asked if we would allow players to fudge the dice.
If it made for a better experience, yeah.
If it made for a better experience, if it made for a better experience, then I think I would be okay with that. It really depends on some additional context. Dropping that last part, if they do it at all, it's problematic because the other players can see what's going on, and then at that point the game starts to break down. In my opinion, that's me as a DM. I'm incentivized personally. Other DMs might have different incentivizations, but I'm incentivized to make sure that my players want to keep playing the game. So if I have to adjust something on the fly, if I have to fudge a dice roll to make sure that the guy who's missed 3 attacks in a row in 3 turns isn't going to tune out by the 4th turn because they're just like basically not even participating by virtue of their poor dice rolls, then I'm going to make that slight fudge, that slight adjustment to reel them back in to make sure that they're doing okay. If I catch a player fudging their dice roll, then I'm going to ask them to not do that in the future. If other players see that they're fudging dice rolls, what's to stop them from doing like fudging it themselves? And they're incentivized to like try to get, advantages to beat my challenge that I've presented in front of them.
And you're kind of getting to the point, which is a player has an incentive to fudge rolls for themselves, not the team, not the group, not the game, for themselves. Whereas I am only fudging rolls when it is in the interest of the game as a whole. Let me read
these super chats, and we're going to Harmony to respond. $5 from Songy and Stu to say, all we're saying is J-Mac rolled a 1 on his last comment. Drunk Stu only rolls 20s. Thank you for the $5. Again, if you're drunk, don't give me money. Wait till you're sober. Okay, $2 from Songy and Stu to say, we do love fudge. We don't want it in our games. Thank you for the $2. And $2 from R-Dubs to say, get better gatekeeping on your table seats, lefty. Thank you for the $2. Why are we bringing in politics to this? But fair enough. Harmony, go ahead.
I have a question for Azeron. Do your players know that you fudge? Because honestly, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The way you're talking and conducting yourself here, I truly believe that you're a good DM. You sound like someone who respects their players. I just wonder, do you tell them that you have the right to fudge, or do you give them that information?
When I start a game, first I determine like what's okay and what's not okay in terms of like the content, like if there's any bad personal experiences that that players don't want in their game or have described like violence or anything like that. I figure all that out, and then I say, okay, I as the DM, I reserve the right to meddle with the rules. I ask that you guys trust me to make sure that the game is enjoyable for you. I'm not going to do that often, but I will intervene if I think that the game is going to suck because of a rule. I will just toss it out. But specifically for fudging, I don't solicit that information. If one of my players wants to have that discussion on a one-on-one conversation with me, I will have that discussion with them. But I essentially I don't tell and they don't ask. I guess. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Or okay.
I mean, it kind of does when you say that you make decisions by what was your wording there? By putting your finger on the scales, something like that. I can't remember how you worded it, but you said
matching the
like
energy.
Okay. I mean, when you say that, I think it's fairly obvious what you're talking about. If you use those words, if a DM told me that, I'd be like, okay, he's saying that he fudges. I'd encourage you to be honest about that with your players, because I mean, it sounds like you're like very close to doing so. And I have no problem with fudging. If the DM is going to come out and tell me at the beginning of the campaign, I reserve the right to do this, then I understand that campaign wouldn't be for me. But at that point, it is about being honest with players, I believe. I had something else to say. I just completely forgot it.
It's okay. That happens. Go ahead.
I got to head out, by the way. But
early? Okay. We'll see you later.
Yeah, it's been a good combo.
We
good to meet
I
you.
appreciate
I'll be
you
even
all.
more aggressive now since he's gone.
Yeah, Sonsol's got to fight harder for me. Peace,
Okay.
guys. It was a good combo.
Bye,
Can
Joe.
I, real quick, say something to Sonsol specifically?
Please don't be nice. Stop, Ginger. Stop being nice.
I'm gonna be really nice, actually, because I just realized that he had Chrono Trigger playing on repeat in the background, and you have a really good taste in games. I gotta say that. That's all.
Oh yeah.
I really like that one. That's all I got.
Wick is so disappointed.
I used to collect old Nintendo
I'm
games.
sorry. Like you're wrong. Okay. Well, I'm gonna say that. I disagree with you. You're wrong because I have to be mean, but I do like your taste in games.
Okay. Here's my question to you. Have you ever played a game where the DM has fudged dice rolls?
Yes.
Was this a particularly bad DM?
Yes.
Have you ever played a game with a DM where you didn't see the dice rolls, but it was a fun game?
No. I had to
That's
think about that. I
crazy.
don't think so. I
Do
think
you
most of
usually
the
have like the same like 2 or 3 DMs or something? Or
I've played with oh wait, no. I'll there was one where I didn't see the die rolls, but I thought he was a really good DM. I've had probably about I guess maybe 10 to 15 DMs in my life, somewhere around there, maybe around 15. And all the best ones have rolled openly. I'm not going to say that rolling openly is required. I don't think you need to roll openly. I think that if you roll behind a screen, okay, I prefer to roll openly, but I'm not going to call anyone a bad DM for rolling behind a screen because sometimes you want to hide modifiers and stuff. You don't want your players to figure it out. You have like a something rolling stealth and you need to compare it to their like there are valid excuses for doing that. I prefer to roll openly. Most of my favorite DMs have rolled openly. But there were a few that I thought were good that rolled behind the screen.
so here's my thing. What it sounds like to me, my worst D&D experience ever in my entire life was my second campaign. And that's because the guy who I knew from high school, his older brother was playing. He was the biggest rule lawyer in the entire world. So he did two things. He was the worst of both worlds. On one hand, he was fudging dice rolls behind a screen, and he was also rule lawyering everything we did. All right.
Sounds awful.
I know. Yeah, it actually was. It actually led
So
to
we
a
found out
huge
who
family
hurt you.
fight.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if you're not going to follow the rules yourself as a DM, you can't expect your players to. I think that's awful.
I think that the only way to have like an enjoyable session of D&D over the 10 plus years that I've been playing D&D is for there to be like a consistent way of applying rules, and it doesn't really matter to me if if the DM says, okay, well, you're going to take 2d6 falling damage per 10 feet that you're falling. I'll just take that and be like, oh, okay, cool. Right? We're going to keep on playing the game. We're not going to like sit here and adjudicate this for like 45 minutes and argue with the DM over what is and what isn't like the correct thing to do. I feel like that's a much more fun and a much more, laid back and it provides for a better experience overall when you know what to expect because the DM is telling you what to expect by their actions.
Mhm.
If the DM is not telling you what to expect by their actions, right, enforcing rules on you guys that he doesn't follow, yeah, that's really shitty DMing, right?
I agree.
But that's not what we're arguing for.
Hold
Okay.
on. $2 from R-Dubs to say if players don't want content, remove them. Thank you for the $2. And $2 from Crafty Matt. Trick question. All fudging DMs are bad DMs. Thank you for the $2. Sondsol. And I see you, Johnny. We're gonna get to Johnny real quick. And I know that we're gonna go to James after Johnny. Yes. If you aren't following the rules, right? Or if your players don't follow the rules and you don't follow the rules, right? It's bad. You should follow the rules. Do you disagree in general?
Can you repeat it?
Sure.
Sorry.
I phrased that poorly. My apologies. Do you think that in general your players should follow the rules as your table dictates?
Yeah, as the DM dictates.
You've been up front. These are the rules we're going to follow. We're going to play D&D. We're going to use this edition. These are the house rules. This is where I disagree with the DM, the DMG. So these are the house rules we have. Are you okay with this? And they should follow those? So what you mean when you
What?
say as dictated by the DM? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. So again, even by that standard, when you fudge and you don't tell them, you're breaking that contract. You're breaking that trust. So why should the players
But if
not be
part of
able
the
to fudge
contract is
if they can get away with it? If you never find
what if-
out, well, who cares, right?
What if part of the contract is that, yeah, sometimes there's going to be a dice fudge here or there?
Oh well, I mean, if you
And
let them, if you let the players know, I mean, no harm, no foul. But I wouldn't ever play at that
Mhm.
table.
Yeah, I've said from the beginning.
I'm going to DM like a 3-session campaign, all right, where you guys have to screen capture all of your dice rolls, and I'm going to keep mine rolling physical dice as God intended on my desk, and you will
Doesn't
not
Roll20
notice.
just do that?
Oh, I hate that website so much. but it's like I've played D&D with people who are rule lawyers as DMs. I've played with people who are rule lawyers as players, and there's lots of different ways to have fun. But you guys are saying like one dice roll can completely rob the entire
Yes,
experience of the
because
entire campaign.
if I find out you lied on that time, it makes me wonder if you what other times have you lied? How many times can your wife cheat on you?
Do you have a lot of trust
before you
do you have a
distrust
lot of
your
trust
wife?
issues? It's not
When
nearly on
people
that
lie
level,
to me,
Wick.
yes. How many times does the Sunday leaking all your DMs have to happen before you never DM him something personal again?
I probably would never DM anyone something personal
Sure.
on this website because people like Sunday exist.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It breaks trust. It breaks trust, and you will never do that, and you'll never trust that person again. That's what happens when DMs fudge rolls. But we're gonna put Johnny,
That's
and then
such
we're
a
gonna
weird
right back.
pass it to James.
comparison.
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
Cool. Man, first of all, I'm reading from the chat here. I forget who said it, but Sondsol kind of just admitted that his worst game was a fudging the rolls game. And I found that to be funny. So
It can be bad.
it can be bad. It can be bad. And I just want to point out, like, some of the worst types of DMs. There's really like 3 really bad types of DMs in aggregated opinions that I've found and that I have. They're killer DMs, Sondsol, people who just kill people. It is my job as the god to try and kill you. It is your job to try and survive. Those types of DMs. There's also people who are like too nice. They call them Monty Hall DMs. They just give them whatever, like, let's make a deal. You just give them whatever they want. And there's also like too hard line to the story DMs. Like, this is gonna end one of like 2 ways. And no matter what you do, no matter what you role play, it's not gonna matter. But that really, that last one really gets me though. That's been one of my worst games ever, was someone who was way too hardline on the story and the map he had built. And that one to me is so egregious because the dice rolls are just the scaffolding, bro. Like, all you have to do is keep the scaffolding up. Everything else that makes a good game, if you're kind of a rules hardliner or not, is the role playing. And that's really what makes or breaks it for the vast majority of people. The last point that I'll make is that I would much rather find out later that, and this is more for Jeb, and Jeb is gone, so it's whatever. I would much rather find out later that a DM fudged a roll on something super minor, or something that was just to keep the campaign going when it was just getting its tracks in, than to find out that somebody fudged a dice roll on the very last big boss. Like, that would piss me off so badly.
Johnny, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. Now, hold on. $5 from Chance Dale to say, didn't you know that your wife can cheat as long as everyone is having fun? Thank you for the $5. We are kind of winding down. We are winding down, right? I know that some people have said that they have to go. So we are going to go to closing statements at this point of time. Please, gang, tell people where they can find you. And if you're watching this in Kick or on YouTube, we're not on Twitch because Sondsol won't let us, right? Sonsol's banned from Twitch because they got him, gang. They canceled him. And now I don't feel bad for him.
I'm the most canceled person on this panel.
Yes. What you need to do is you need to go when they give you, when these lovely individuals tell you where you can find them, give them a follow, give them a sub, give them a link, like a like, whatever they want, right? Whatever it is, give them a follow on Twitter. I don't know, right? Because we want to support them too and encourage people to come back to my show because it's actually good for them. So please do that. But again, closing thoughts. And if you can't stay, I might take call-ins for like 10 minutes. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But we're going to start with Johnny and we're going to end with James. And that's the order we're going to go in. Johnny, closing thoughts.
Cool. Closing thoughts are that please don't let this nerd pedantic bullshit be the reason you don't play D&D. D&D is so fun and creative. I am Johnny Scarlett. I'm an educational streamer on Twitch. We talk about philosophy and math and science, all sorts of cool stuff. Johnny, spelled like the boy's name. Scarlett, spelled with two T's, as is tradition. Yeah, and can I please give a shout out? we have this wonderful DM. This year is his 50th year playing D&D, and he's going to watch this later. So Ken, you make the store better, and I couldn't imagine our community without you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Gang, give her a follow. Thank you for coming, Johnny. Really appreciate it. Harmony, what you got?
Okay. I'll drop my socials in the chat, but I just want to say that I think that you can DM a great campaign, but I think the best thing that you can do for your campaign is to not fudge. Let the dice tell the story. Let them fall where they may. Read the rules, follow the rules to the best of your ability, and give the players the experience that they believe that they are coming into. Make sure your campaign will live much longer if you read the rule book and follow what the dice tell you to do. Sometimes it doesn't feel like the best option. Sometimes you'll be tempted to fudge, but if you let it go and just let the dice fall where they may, roll openly, then overall, in the long term, your game will be better.
Thanks. And gang, once she drops her socials, give her a follow, give her a sub, help her go to the moon. We like Harmony here. Help her out. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Azeron.
You got it.
Great. Give us what you got.
I'd prefer not to plug my socials. You can find me on Twitter. It's the same. I have the same handle, but I'm not very nice on Twitter, so I don't really want people to like see that. But in terms of closing statements, I think we just have like different preferences on how to play the game, and I think that's fine. I think as long as you and your players trust each other, I think that's and that you're having an enjoyable experience. I think that's what truly matters the most. If Wick and Harmony Ginger were at my table, I would give them the same spiel. And if they didn't want me to intervene at any point in the game, then we can work that out. And I probably would honor that. And I hope that they would trust me on that situation. But that's pretty much it. Thanks to everybody for participating, and everybody should play D&D.
Thank you for being here. You don't want people to find you, so I can't tell people to go find you. But you know what? We're all mean on Twitter. Twitter's there for shit posting. But thank you for being here, and thank you for coming to my show. I do appreciate it, even if you're very, very wrong. So thank you. Sondsol, give us what you got.
Really, at the end of the day, as long as everybody at the table is fine with whatever rule set you guys are playing, or however the DM is playing, then you're playing D&D right. I don't think that if you're gonna like if you want to sit there and read the entire rule book the entire time that you're DMing, like, God bless you, go for it. I don't care. What I don't like is the idea that it's the only way to play it, and that you're just like a lying liar who's lying because you decided to like give them a +1 or reduce AC by 1 or some shit like that. I've played D&D completely off the cuff with no books nearby, just making shit up as we go, and science in senior year of high school. I've played where we have to like create extravagant plans just to beat a simple encounter. Like I've played all sorts of different kinds of campaigns, but the ones that are the best are the ones where the DM has a lot of leeway in how they do things, and that leeway extends just as far as they're willing to be consistent with it. I'm Sondsol. I'm on YouTube now because I got banned off of Twitch. And yeah, I talk about lots of things, including, I guess, D&D now.
Thank you for coming to the show. I appreciate you. Gang, check him out. He is on YouTube. Give him a sub. Give him a like. Even if you don't like what he has to say, he's always entertaining saying it. It's funny to watch him be wrong. So, you know, show him some love for coming in here and getting destroyed publicly like he did. So I appreciate you for that. Last but certainly not least, the multiculturalist, James.
Thank you so very much, Wick. Honestly, there's a lot of strength in points that Ginger and Wick have been mentioning. Like I said before, it's about the idea of agency and the fact that players get to figure out what their consequences are. I think that the thing is, though, is trying to understand what D&D is as a game in general. I've heard so far in the conversation multiple times the DMG referred. But the thing is that when you go through D&D, it honest to God has changed so vastly. 5th edition is not the dungeon crawler that it would have been with basic or advanced. Matthew Colville, making a person who has his own Kickstarter with the MCDM going. He mentions in his video, what is a dungeon for? The old school rules of dungeoneering make sense why you then have a mirror or things like that. But this is kind of a list that gets thrown out over time. But at the same time, when you look at the advances of other DM guides like this is page 8 and page 9 of the DMG 4th edition, and it talks about the types of players to then prepare for. This isn't in previous editions of the DMG. We have these intuitions about how to then play the game, and they change over time. I think what we're usually arguing is degrees of what we do one way or the other, and honestly, everything's situational. And with that, I'm going to close with Wick's favorite edition and quote, Chapter 1, How to be a DM, page 7. Fun! Exclamation point. The last essential component of a D&D game is fun. It's not the DM's job to entertain the players and just make sure that they have fun. Every person playing the game is responsible for the fun of the game. Everyone speeds the game along, heightens the drama, helps set how much role-playing the group is comfortable with, and brings the game world to life with their imaginations. Everyone should treat each other with respect and consideration too. Personal squabbles and fights among the characters get in the way of fun. Different people have different ideas of what's fun about D&D, just like there's been different, and this is my words, just like there's been different DMGs over the edition. Remember that the right way, in quotation marks, to play D&D is the way that you and your players agree on and enjoy. If everyone comes to the table prepared to contribute to the game, everyone has fun. I'm Multiculturalist James. You can find me on YouTube and all the other socials.
Gang,
thank you so much, Wick.
No, thank you for being here. Check him out. He's wrong on this, but we still love him anyway. Give him a follow. Give me. That's wrong too. Give him a follow. Give him a like. Give him a subscribe. Right. I'm trying to show you love, buddy, and we appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for being here, gang. If you've liked my content, if you've liked this, whatever this was today, discussion, I don't know what we want to call it, argument, this TTRPG battle royale, then like that, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got more content coming up for you this week. Tuesday, we're going to have open call-ins where if you have anything to say to me, you can call in and talk to me face to face. A lot of people have a lot of problems with my takes. Don't be a coward. Show up. Say it to my face, and you'll get it off your chest is the segment that we call it. On Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Xerxes on, right? We're going to have Cohort on. They're going to be facing off against Tuna Chip and Hippie Jesus on why women are the problem. We're going to find out the final solution to women. That's going to be on Wednesday. It's going to be great. And we're going to have something for Friday. I don't know. Thursday, I'm taking off because whatever. But yeah, we'll have a panel of some political thing on Friday. With that, wave bye-bye, everyone. Bye. We're going to go away. Bye.
All right. Good. Now we're away from those losers. Let's see here. Let's test something real quick. I'm not going to be streaming for much longer whatsoever. But that was a fun. That was like the only non-political panel that I've ever been on that it was like a fun topic. Did you win? I feel like they just took such a strong stance against something that literally everybody does. The only people that I've ever seen take like the strong stance that you have to follow the rules like verbatim from the DMG have been the absolute most obnoxious people to play with, whether they're a player or whether they're a DM. Jesus Christ. I just don't like the extreme levels of it's not in the rule book. Like that shit's annoying. See? Other people can hear. But yeah, like the only thing that it comes down to is like I've heard those exact arguments from the kinds of people that I hated playing with, where it's like, oh well, like the rules are there for a reason. It's like there is guidelines because you're not going to be able to like have a moderately balanced game on the fly as a DM ever if you don't have like some basic scaffolding to go off of. But like when I'm playing D&D, bro, I don't use any. I can't hear on Kick, but I can on YouTube. That's weird. Is your tab muted? Listen, when I'm the DM, I get like, I'm like, okay, these guys, they're level, let's say the player characters are level 10.
like, okay, you know what? The average of their roll plus their bonuses is like around this. I'll make the DC or the AC on the creature close to that. Like I don't think I've ever used, outside of, you know, just for novelty's sake, any monster out of the monster manual. And if I did use a monster out of the monster manual, I never used all of the rules as stated, because there's, and maybe this is just a thing that happens with the kind of people that I play with. But like, if you do use a creature out of the DMG, those are going to know it because they've read every single monster and what their stats are and shit like that. So they'll know exactly, like, they're going to be metagaming because they already know all of the creatures. So I just like make every single creature like homebrew. I've literally never had a single complaint over any encounter I've ever run. But, you know, that's just me with my correct opinion. Well, welcome. For people that are new, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Kick, I'm Sondsol. I am a political science student. I like to talk about politics. I like to argue about politics. We talk about all sorts of fun things on here, like drama and politics. And I like to argue with people in chat about a lot of different things. Like, comment, and subscribe. I don't like to shill. Also,